one of the coolest ideas that I've seen for a turbo toolbox deck in quite a while are here, and Heroes took down first place for this event. You guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Next Level, the Gamers Den hosted an event recently, and the top cut for this event pretty much looks very interesting, but there's a couple of things about this top cut that were very interesting when you get into the raw data and looking at the top 8 here. So, most represented deck, tri-brigade, some sort of variant. Alright, that's nothing real too surprising to me. Alright, it kind of looks like Tri's kind of leaped ahead a little bit in some of these events. And then we had one hero deck. Well, the interesting part about hero here in a second, which we'll cover, is it ended up winning this event, which kind of tells me that heroes can actually do something, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that kind of cool to know? Alright, and then we had what we're going to call is Astral Soul, which we'll cover that list here in a second, but it's basically a rank 8 kind of toolbox turbo deck that has alphas, has Astral Kuribohs in it, and it has a mini Sword Soul engine that kind of generates this interesting advantage. I can't really group it with Sword Soul because it's just such a weird variant, but you'll see what I mean here in a second. Then, of course, we had one Sword Soul. Okay, pretty standardized. We continuously know that this deck is a thing in the format here. And then we had one drytron. Okay, pretty standard stuff. And then we had Mech Orcust making its way into Top Cut. And we've seen Mech Knight Orcust kind of doing things for a little while here. Like, we're no strangers to this deck. In fact, you get advantage to the Mech Knight engine to kind of capitalize, build these huge boards, and just kind of laugh at your opponent as they can't really do anything because, you know, you got full Orcust combo on the board, you got Mech Knights running around. It's the definition of I think, a very scary toolbox at the end of the day. So that deck ended up making it in at 8th place, but we'll take a look at that here in a second. Let's go talk about those deck lists, shall we? Alright, winning the event here was Ramiro Petrasos. I'm sorry if I destroyed that name. First place with Heroes. And the first thing I want to say here about this list is 3 Stratos looks like it's going to be the big clutch for this. I've heard a few people talking about wanting to play 2 of this, I guess. We also have double Liquid Soldier up here. Last I remember checking on Liquid Soldier, he was usually a 1 of, but I can get behind this. Alright, the 1 Miracle Fusion, the 1 Poly, this is pretty standardized now. We're maximizing on, of course, the Fusion Destinies. Why wouldn't we, right? And, of course, double Astral Blossom, double Nibiru, double Crossout. I love our 2-ofs for hand traps here. Because remember, you in Heroes, you know, seeing a 3 of could potentially hurt you in the long run. And that's not really something that you really want to deal with. I also see down here in the side deck that we have triple Crossout Designator, which, okay, that's pretty freaking good. And then, of course, we have the 1 Revolt, because, I mean, why not? You board this in terms of the format, and you just cross out. You laugh at your opponent. Like, Tri's greatest asset against you is the fact that they can just mess you up through Revolt. Taking away a hero player's board setup is one of the hardest things to really deal with. And considering the fact that you're such a fragile combo deck, yeah, there's not really much you can do about that. So having the Revolt here with the cross out to kind of counteract it is not a bad thing. Next up here is Astral, the deck. I don't know what was kind of developed in the grand scheme of this, but I love this deck. This feels very anti-meta esque. So we have the alphas to kind of counteract some of the main strategy. Astral Kuribohs actually allow us to kind of construct whatever toolbox package that we want. We have the dimension shifters to offset the opponent. We have the Lunas in here so that we can get free non-targeting bounce ability, get those kaijus back to your hand, and break the opponent's large boards. That seems like a absolutely win-win game plan for me. Of course, you've got the Godarlas of choice for the kaijus in here. Gizmex are going to just give you the free bodies to pressure the opponent. Ecclesias are going to feel the Sword Soul engine. The Swaj D floors are going to give you extra access to that toolbox part of this deck so that you can basically number 100 OTK your opponent. Remember, effectively, being able to just get 2 level 8s onto the field at all points in time is potentially number 100 OTK. And the fact that you can monitor that the entire time is something important. It's actually kind of what you get with the Sword Soul package in this deck, is the fact that you get that extra level of protection. Alright, by that extra level of protection, you get the Chizao build. You get the ability to Chizao search for what your extender. You can get to the Baron, or you can get to the Tai for the additional. It depends on how you open with this deck. But I think the scariest thing of this deck is just how well the pieces move. And I don't know. I think for just the person that designed this, Chris here, is an absolute genius. This is by far probably one of the coolest levels of innovation that I've had, and this actually is a perfectly good use for Astral Kuriboh by standard of the modern meta game. So is this something that you should probably give a shot? Yeah, why not? This is pretty freaking awesome. Third place here, Emilio Torres playing the tri-lyricalisk. So this is our first lyricalist in top cut. This deck lost one of those other 2 that you just saw there. Alright, so I see we have our standard bird package here. 1 Crow, the 1 Apex Avian. This is all standardized. We have the triple desires for the draw power, alright, dark rollers, and we have the double trap trick and the Harpy's Featherstorm here to board in to basically break the opponent's boards. There's nothing too crazy to kind of talk about with this, but very standardized. Alright, 4th place here was Sword Soul. Alright, so we are playing 2 copies of Dragon Cycle. That feels a little bit normal. I see that we have the 1 Synthonis. We are playing the 1 Water so that we can extend on out. I'm not sure how I feel about seeing 1 Water in a majority of these builds. Most people have cut it, but I understand like the fact that it does come up as another additional level 4. I do see down here in the extra deck, though, that we have the Anintis and the Mechaba and the Nova, which means that this person has been losing to Invoked for a little while, or they're just having a massively hard time being able to handle that deck. So that pretty much tells me that they have a really big bias for those types of things. But you know what? I guess you do have room in Sword Soul to kind of dedicate that 3-card package and have it actually work out. Because clearly it made it to 4th place. Right, ladies and gentlemen? So there's got to be some sort of cool success, at least there at the end of the day for that. Alright, so not too bad. 5th place here is Drytron. Yay! I'm really glad to see that they've cut Dasher at this point for Celestial. Hey, good news is if you want to play this deck, you don't have to get a Dasher. Alright, bad news is you got to pick up the droplets and kind of the rest of the stuff. I think most of the Drytron players at this point have kind of come to the consensus that you're going to have to put in those going second cards so that you can play the game. And unfortunately, you know, that's going to mean you're going to have to add in more extra or more main deck spots. So you're going to have to dedicate those droplets if you want to play the Dark Rollers. You also have the 1 Mystic Mine in this particular list here. Outside of that, we have the Double Herald, which is fine. I think that's become the standard. I know some people really try to push the 3 Herald of Orange Lights, but I don't think that ends up working. I also see that we have the Anintis in here as well. Extra deck Yeet. Outside of that, yeah, the Summon Limits in the side deck here are actually kind of interesting. That and your Sword Soul matchup, I feel like it's just kind of free chicken tendies if that ends up coming up, right? Let's see here. 6th place is another tri-brigade list. This list here only has 2 copies of Crossout Designator. I'm not. Maybe they just didn't have access to the 3rd. Maybe they just didn't want to put it in. Maybe 2 was the purposeful answer, but looks like that's what ended up working out for this list. Double Revolt is fine. We have the Contact Seas in the side deck here. Yeah, nothing else sticks out to me as too left field here. I do love the 1 Nibiru in here for the 2 crossouts, by the way. Next up here is 7th place. Oh boy, another tri-lyricalisk. I see that we had the Kinko Bio. Okay, we chose some cool combo stuff here. All right, so we can actually toolbox up a little bit easier with that. It's like a turn 2 extender or something if we need to revive from the graveyard. Okay, the Featherstorms are in the side deck. That seems to be the trend for all of these lists. Outside of that, yeah, nothing sticks out too crazy to me. We chose to play the Talents over the Desires. Okay, and the last list I have for you guys here is Mech Orcust / Eldritch. You know what? Sometimes you wake up one day, you grab a pile of cards, and you're like, this is what I'm playing today. So how does this work? So the Orcust engine gives us the interruptions through the opponent's turn via the field spell, which we're not even playing, by the way. We're not even doing that. So we're basically using the orcust engine just as a sub-climb engine, just so we can make Dean Grease to protect our back row, or protect our cards. And then the Mech Knight package, so we can set up columns. Lava Golems to disrupt the opponent with the alphas. And this is just a lot going on in this deck. This is truly the definition of a pile of cards. And of course we have the standard zombie side deck here of we're going to bring in the Inspector Borders and the Zombie World so you can just mess up the opponent. No Outer World Banshee in here, by the way. But overall, this is really just a bunch of pieces kind of moving together. I actually like this. So guys, what do you think about these lists? Please leave a comment down below. What you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button. So guys, I'm going to more awesome content. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on the day. Some more cool awesome content. Peace out, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.